everyone. My name is Natalie Hinton, and I am your host for Education Chat, a podcast by students for students in the Inland Empire. This month, I had the opportunity to attend Toward a Shared Vision, a conference hosted by Growing Inland Achievement. Some highlights from the event include keynote speaker Matt Immersion, author of Every Monday Matters, giving an inspiring speech about how we as individuals matter, a fireside chat with the president of GIA and other notable speakers, and a student panel answering frequently asked questions regarding their educational journey. As someone who creates education chat in remote means, that was the first time I was able to meet some of my coworkers thanks to the conference. I was able to get to know them face to face and make some new connections that I plan on staying in touch with. These collective experiences allowed me to learn the most important lesson from the conference, which is the importance of networking. In college and beyond, networking is essential. It is the act of building relationships to exchange either information or experiences. It can grow your social circle by developing meaningful connections, which fosters both personal and professional growth. Gaining these real-world insights allows students to develop their skills, support their future and current careers, and broaden their general understanding of the world. And some of you may network on a daily basis without even realizing it. Joining me on today's episode of Education Chat to speak more about the importance of networking is Jess Zento, a student from RCC that spoke on the aforementioned student panel at Toward a Shared Vision. As a listener in the audience, I was immediately captivated by her answers to the questions, and I wanted to get to know more about how she became confident in networking and what advice she has to provide for her fellow students. So without further ado, here is Jess. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Jessica.
Oh, you're so welcome, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.
So I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everyone watching, talk a little bit about your education and any plans you might have for the future.
Sure. So my name is Jessica Zento. I go by Jess. I am 31 years young. I have lived in the Inland Empire my whole life. I started my educational journey in a vocational ed setting back in 2012 after I graduated in 2011. So I wasn't sure that even the possibility of going to junior college or undergraduate or any type of school was possible for me just because of my upbringing in marginalized communities where a lot of us really didn't think education was for us because of money issues. So I started there, and then I traveled from nursing for a few years, for about 10 years, and then went to pursue my associates after I left the nursing field post-COVID. And so I did that in a time where I felt I was ready to. I wanted to really go into a community college setting, really accessing and making the resources that were there available to myself, like making myself knowledgeable and aware. And this started back in 2022. So now, flash forward 2024, I'll be finished here in the winter with an associate's in sociology, psychology, and social behavioral sciences. And it's really something I'm proud of just because I've always wanted to give back to my community. I did as a nurse, but this is different for me because I'm giving back on the community aspect. And that was a real big thing for me when I knew that I was going back into community college. I said, well, not only do I want to take advantage of everything that it has to offer me, but I want to give back as well. And so here I am 2 years later. I've been able to flourish through Riverside City College immensely through all of their resources. That's a little bit of my background and how I've gotten here to RCC from voc ed school and all the way now, and then pursuing undergraduate school shortly.
Congratulations on you obtaining your associate's degree. That's so exciting. I just got mine this past spring, and I was lucky enough to be able to transfer to a university. So right now I'm at Cal State University studying business. And something I got to learn in communications was I finally understood how important it is to network and make these relationships with all these people on campus. So I want to know, when did you first realizing how important networking is?
Networking, as soon as I got to RCC, I knew that in order to get to those resources that I wanted to have access to, I had to go talk to people. I had to get off the phone and I had to make my way to campus. And it started with me going to the first point of contact was a counseling department, making an appointment with a counselor and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. Where do I need to go? Where do I need to be to get to this? And it wasn't just one stop, it was many stops. And that's where I knew that networking was most important, because if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have been able to have access to everything that came with it. And you'll hear the saying, I don't know if you heard it, Natalie, but sometimes your network is your net worth. And I absolutely believe in that.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. And this is technically our first time being able to chat face to face, but I just saw you last week at Toward the Shared Vision, GIA's yearly conference, and I was able to see you up on that student panel and be asked all these sorts of questions. And then you also had the opportunity to meet all the people who were talking to you on that panel. So I want you to talk a little bit about your experience at Toward a Shared Vision and how that impacted your networking journey.
Toward a Shared Vision, I'm very humbled and honored to have been there, and to have been a panelist with amongst all the other students and just the College Corps Consortium. Honestly, it brought already such a large amount of support from people that I already knew and that I was with, but also from people that I didn't know, such as look at us now, yourself, as well as other city officials, as like district members, and people that I didn't ever think that would come across paths with. And Towards Shared Vision really put that, made it possible for me to make those connections and network and see what it was like to not only speak in front of such a large group of people, but to talk to those people afterwards and make those connections. It was absolutely, it was great. I had such a great time, and not only all of the amazing, higher level educated people, but also my peers, my colleagues, my fellows, the ones that have done the community work and have been through the educational journey with me. So it was such a pleasure to be there with everyone. And I really honestly was just so blessed to have been nominated by Darcy Manzo, which is the College Corps of RCC director and coordinator. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity, and it's just great to connect. And now, look, like I said, you and I are here, and so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, and Darcy was actually one of our previous guests. I did a whole episode talking about the importance of volunteering, and I got Darcy to talk a little bit about college. So that's kind of something that has been positive in my life when it comes to networking. I was able to meet Darcy. I also got to meet her in person at Toward a Shared Vision, and she was so welcoming, and she was like, contact me if you need anything at all. And I also want to know what positive things have occurred in your life because of all your networking.
Positive things. Wow. I can start from, from when I started as a baby nurse in the medical field, making those important contacts. Networking, it has so many aspects, right? It's like a tree. There's so many little branches and components that go to it. But from first beginning with myself, knowing what I was about, what my mission was, and even if you don't know, but really just having at least that level of confidence really makes a difference when you're networking and making those connections and relationships, because you never know who you're going to come across or meet that may come in handy of a resource later, or a point of contact later. I really think it's important to really be confident in when you're speaking to whomever you might come across. Never hesitate to share a little bit about your story. I always really like to make an impression when I meet anybody, just because, like I said, you never know if that contact might come back later.
Yeah, and you talked before about how like you couldn't just do things over the phone. Once you got in person, that is when you started to see results. And you obviously seem very experienced when it comes to networking. I mean, we only met a couple minutes ago and we're just having a nice conversation. Like we've known each other forever. And I really want to know, how did you gain these networking skills that you have now?
I think that with being a people person, it's helped me naturally, just gravitating towards wanting to know more about others and knowing how I can be of an influence and help, of a resource. I've always had that methodology behind, like, just me, a philosophy of a human being, like how can I be of a help to somebody else. So I think they're finding a common ground of where maybe like a point of exchange, a contact can be shared, and it can from then grow and flourish into further conversations and in a relationship.
So, do you think that networking is just kind of practice makes perfect?
The practice made perfect. I had a band instructor. I was in band for almost all my high school years, so I'm kind of a gem of all trades. Natalie, I wear many hats throughout my life. And like you, I know you mentioned you're a business major. I too held a little business for a little time, but and music. There was a saying that my professor always used to say, "Practice makes permanent." And not perfect, right? And so it's all about the method of how you practice or how you speak. So for me, maybe those skills, even then for me, they came naturally, but for some that may not, I would recommend just maybe practice on speaking in the mirror or gaining some confidence with public speaking at school or with peers, just having conversations to really just strengthen the confidence in speaking and being able to then network with others. Because I think there's a level of confidence you have to have in yourself with speaking to be able to make connections, like real long lasting connections, not just hi, how are you? Oh, that's good. Okay, we'll see you later. But really meaningful connections, like, a practice sheet of how you would interact with somebody of importance. I think I did that once at a networking event when I went to my first medical convention, and I asked myself, well, what if someone comes up to me and I don't know what to ask them? So maybe making like a spreadsheet of typical questions or things that of interest, maybe that would help build up skills.
I used to be a super shy kid myself in elementary school. I would not talk to anyone. I just go to school and then go home. But then I got to high school and I started joining clubs and I did theater. And you could have said just like try not to like you would make a script of like questions and stuff. I would have to memorize my lines in theater, but there would be times where someone flubs up their line and then that improv like having that improv ready to go and try and pick up the scene was the most important part of theater. You can memorize 1,000 lines if you want to, but one little thing goes wrong and you need to have those skills to be able to pick up the scene and get it back going. So obviously, I also think that like having the questions for people that, you typically ask, what do you do for a career? Do you have any hobbies outside of it? But also being able to build off of that. If someone says, oh, I like going rock climbing, you can ask, when's the last time you went? Is there a specific place you like to go?
Yeah,
Building off of that. But
open questions. I agree definitely.
But obviously, still as someone who is shy very internally and still is trying to come out of my own shell, I can still find networking difficult. And I want to know for you, what is an aspect of networking that you find difficult?
Well, retaining communication with the contacts made, if they were made. I find that for me, the initial greet, like let's say, for instance, at Towards a Share Vision, when I met some new peers from different colleges, is it's not for me the first initial contact that I make where I'm like nervous or I'm unable to just communicate or network, but it's the after part that I struggle with. So staying in communication after, trying to make the relationship build to where in case that point of contact would come in handy later, there would have been already a meaningful relationship kept, to be able to kind of like come back and say, hey, it won't be awkward. In other words, that for me has been challenging, especially with just the amount of people that I come in contact with, and kind of filtering out what which people are most important to me. It kind of goes based off, like, how when you have a ton of emails and you're kind of going on priority, like, let me make these meetings first because I don't want to miss this person. And it kind of sometimes things can fall on the back burner, and that's kind of been hard for me, especially with meetings. As you know, as a college student, you have homework and other deadlines to meet and other priorities. So I would say, like, priority of scheduling those meetings and retaining communication after the network or contact is made, if that makes sense.
I agree with that too,
Yeah.
because sometimes when you're networking, you meet so many people
Yes,
and
yes,
you're
yeah.
trying to figure out who like do I need to speak to in this moment, you know?
Exactly.
But I
Mhm.
would love to go ahead and close out this interview with your advice because you obviously know how to network. So I want you to give all the tips and tricks you have to your fellow students that want to network and make these connections.
Okay. Some of the tips and tricks I would have for fellow students would be to don't hesitate to go out there, and put yourself out there with letting people know who you are, and what your why is. I think that's what we all kind of start out with anything, is what is our why. And once you know that, it kind of leads you into a successful networking journey, where you can make good point of contacts, relationships, and then communications for later down the line when you might need it. I would say, along with that, to use a good system of tracking. Honestly, for me, sometimes I will, like, for instance, at Tour to Share Vision, I, of course, conveniently did not have my phone. It was in my backpack, which lets you know I was in the moment. But there was times where I wanted to put someone's information down and I didn't have it. I did, however, had the notepad that was given to us and a pen. So any way that you could track, write a name down or write a number, email, just have something on hand. I wanted my phone, but I was able to have a notepad for little things that I was able to write down. Another trick would be to just be yourself. Honestly, for me, I can tend to be really hard on myself with how I speak publicly or how I show up in front of others. Sometimes people, we're going all through the same things in just different ways. And just be kind to yourself during the networking process. It can feel pretty pressuring sometimes too, with knowing that you have like meetings and deadlines and certain people you have to show up at certain times for. But overall, just have fun, and really just enjoy being, I always say, a spiritual being living a human experience, and enjoy communicating with others. Because if I do recall, we were at one point in time where the world was really odd, almost 4 years ago, where we couldn't do that. And I really don't take that for granted now. Not that I did, but I think that we should definitely make the connections while we can. And yeah, that would sum it up for my tips and tricks. So in a nutshell, again, I know I said a lot, but just be confident, have something to track your, communications with who you're talking to, and have fun. Really, that's all.
Thank you for coming on Education Chat, Jessica.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me today, Natalie.
Thank you again to Jess for sharing her insights and experiences with networking. I want to highlight the quote she inherited from her band teacher: "Practice makes permanent." You can put practice into many things, but the technique and method in which you do it is what truly matters. Many people may jump into networking without the soft skills needed to foster a relationship with a new connection, but it is important to address how exactly you can network successfully. These soft skills include being able to make small talk, make eye contact, actively listen, and have patience. One of my recommendations is to develop an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is a summary of yourself, your skills, and what you are looking for, compressed into about 30 seconds. Similar of how I start every episode of this podcast, I let you know my name, the purpose of Education Chat, and what today's topic is. It is important to figure out and define the reason you are networking with this person. Are you looking for a mentor? Do you want an internship? Or maybe you just want to expand your perspective on life. Whatever it is, include that purpose towards the end of a statement to make that lasting impression. By creating an elevator pitch, you allow others to get a glimpse into your life, which in turn can create a long-lasting connection. Although I was grateful enough to be able to go to the Tour to Shared Vision conference, you do not have to network only in person. Technology allows us to network through fully virtual means. A great website to do this on is LinkedIn. Once you create your own account that showcase your interests, experience, and goals, simply find someone that you feel like would be a great connection and send them a personalized message asking them to connect. And remember, if you connect with someone, be sure to stay connected. Follow up with them on updates on your life, and be sure to reach out whenever you need a piece of advice. Thank you for allowing me to network with you during this podcast, and I hope to chat with you again soon.